Who was the dumbest person you ever met? How did you know? I know a guy who thinks the specialty he drinks negates the negative health effects of his pack-a-day smoking habit. I had a guy at work tell me that Benjamin Franklin was the 100th president because he's on the $100 bill. I know a guy who vaped mercury on a dare. She thought I was trying to trick her into believing that Adolf Hitler was real. I remember proofreading a paper for a freshman my roommate had the hots for. It was on Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal. But somehow this freshman didn't catch that it was satire. The opening lines of the paper are burned into my memory. Eating children would not be a good thing to do. In fact, we could say it would be bad. I went to school with a girl that legitimately thought 9/11 was done by German Nazis. I used to work with the nicest person I've ever met. But he was also the dumbest. Even though he had been there over a year, he couldn't do anything beside washing dishes without someone watching over him. He just could not figure out how to do anything on his own. Someone, usually me, would have to watch over every little thing he did to make sure he was doing it right. It would have been frustrating if he wasn't the nicest darn person on earth. He was always so happy to see you and did everything with a smile on his face. Luckily he could wash dishes like a refined beast. I'm not exaggerating when I say he could wash dishes faster and cleaner than anyone I have ever met. That's the reason he would do other stuff, is because he washed dishes so darn fast we'd have to find other stuff for him to do. His wife was normal and all his kids were doctors or engineers. They were all crazy smart. What was kind of sad is that he knew he wasn't the smartest. But he was so darn nice. I was working in a French company. We were working with a dev team in Vietnam on Summit project. The project manager they report to in HQ is French. They didn't like him and he knew it. The Vietnamese team did some great job. He wanted to find the correct words to congratulate them, hoping to smoothen the future relationship. He sent that incredible thank you email. When we see the quality of your work, we can only realize how sad it is that we lost you guys as a colony. The French expats in the Vietnam office told me they were hiding in shame for a full week. A guy at a job site said this to me in all seriousness. I am quoting. If Hitler had put all the Jews on the Titanic, he could have saved himself a lot of trouble. I felt like I had a stroke. We hired a girl a couple years ago. I told her where the manager's office was her first day. Second day, she asked me where the manager's office was. So I walked her to the door. Third day, she asks me where it is again. Our manager chewed out the girl who trained our new recruit for not teaching the job properly. The trainer pulled out her phone and showed the manager a picture of the girl wearing the uniform backwards and said, "Look at this. This is untrainable." New girl got fired about 3 weeks later for stealing the product because she thought she got it for free because she was an employee. Edit. Some of you are kind enough to give her the benefit of the doubt about not finding the office. Unfortunately, this office was located on the second floor, which consisted of a hallway with a single door. And nothing else. It wasn't possible to get lost. Also, spelling. I live in southern Spain. I once met a girl from the US who was here on some kind of exchange program. When I asked her how did she like Spain so far, she said, "I'm loving it. I just don't know why the plane took so long to get here. I mean, we are just a bit below Mexico. I don't know why the flight was so long." Then I told her that we were in Europe and she didn't believe me. Her reply was, "Europe? It can't be, everyone speaks Spanish, so we must be somewhere near Mexico for sure." She was in uni. I still don't know how or why. A girl in my sophomore year of high school who thought there were 6 months in a year. She was really nice, but very surprised and confused when we tried to set her right. A girl in my class in middle school genuinely thought people had landed on the sun. Her explanation for this belief was to insist that the moon and sun are made of the same stuff. A friend of mine still thinks cancer is made up by Big Pharma. Someone asked me if Japanese was a real language. In high school. Twice. A girl in my art class in high school thought there was just a part of the cow called meat. When we explained meat is the muscles, she freaked out and became vegetarian. Was working at a grocery store over a decade ago. I wouldn't call the kid dumb, because he just didn't know. It's more of a funny thing. He was new and the manager asked him to face the store when he asked what he could do. Facing means you make sure the aisles look nice and neat and that the product is pulled forward and visibly facing you as you walk down the aisle. The kid couldn't be found until someone told the manager one of the workers was just standing in the parking lot facing the store. I will never forget that. A co-worker of mine sent an email to our company's global mailing list. Our company has 5,000 employees. The email contained a 1 GB attachment. It shut down the entire company for a day. He had just purchased a new, high-powered BB gun. We had just finished shooting it in the backyard when he points the barrel at my face and pulls the trigger several times. I tell him to stop being an idiot and he just laughs and says it's not loaded. Then the moron puts the barrel in his mouth and pop. Shoots a BB right through his tongue and into his uvula. I asked a temp at work to weigh a couple of lever arch files for postage. She came back and told me they were 65 kilograms. I asked if it were possible that it was 6.5 kilograms, but she insisted it wasn't. We argued about it for a good 5 minutes. It wasn't until I asked her how much she weighed, 59 kilograms, that it finally twigged that these two small folders couldn't possibly weigh more than her. They referred to spork as the devil's utensil and said it was trying to blur gender lines in society by combining the feminine spoon and the masculine fork. There was a guy who made fun of me because I was a pedestrian waiting a green light. She had a mug from Disneyland with the name Ronald on it. She thought you just picked a mug of the name you like and not your actual effing name. I'm late but car dashboard reads 40 miles to E. My car says in 40 miles. We'll be going east. Guy said his son was named Aaron. Named after the Air and Space Museum. SMH. Few years ago in Australia, Coke changed their bottle to be a bit narrower and taller to suit less plastic. Both bottles were 600 milliliters. Girl in my class at uni adamant that the change wasn't to reduce plastic but so they could put less Coke in to save money. I know they are both 600 milliliters. But the new one has less Coke in it. I have geography in 3rd period and this kid thinks there's 2 Floridas. One time my now ex-girlfriend was watching Maury Povich. One of those paternity test episodes with the classic "you are not the father" moment. And she turns to me and says, if we ever have a baby and I found out I'm not the mother, I'll kill you. Thankfully we didn't end up reproducing. Worked with a lady who I convinced you could buy full-size dinosaurs online. Also believed Denzel Washington was the president when Obama was in office, no lie. I had a boss who told me that she never kept leftovers from a meal because that's how polio got started. My first ever girlfriend thought you had to study for an STD test. She was really pretty. While visiting the Lincoln Memorial, I ran into an older couple discussing the inscription of the Gettysburg Address on the walls. The woman asked the man what this was in reference to and if it was about America, and the man said something to the effect of, no, this couldn't be about America. We never had any slaves here in our country. It must be about what happened in country X. These were 2 Americans. I was trying to leave my polling place after voting but couldn't go immediately because it was pouring outside. So I got into a little conversation with one of the people running the polls that day. Started talking about what I do, it's engineering, why, and she said that that's such a useful skill to have. She asked that I use that knowledge to fix all the big problems in the country, especially all the chemtrails. Try to explain condensation. But she still didn't want to accept that they weren't dangerous and she demanded they be eliminated. Propeller aircraft was not a viable suggestion. Nice lady. Just thick. Girl at work repeatedly humped her pregnant tummy because the baby was kicking her kidneys. She and the baby are fine now, but holy cow, I could not believe what I had seen. My high school physics teacher, he insisted that Canada was pronounced Canada because if they're Canadians, then why isn't it Canada? Dumbest basic girl in my history class was convinced that 9/11 was just called that because 911 is the emergency line. She deadass never knew that it was nicknamed off of the date. After the history teacher tried to explain it to her, her response was something like, but 9/11 happened in September, not in 9. 9 isn't even the name of a month, so it can't be the date, and everyone went into silence after that. They said the earth is flat and they weren't joking. They legitimately thought it. White girl didn't think she could get pregnant because the guy was Mexican. Swear on my life.